Hey guys, how are you all doing? Today I'm going to be sharing an amazing recipe and a staple in our house. With this single recipe, you can make homemade bread, buns, cinnamon rolls, and more with only 5 simple ingredients. So let's jump straight into this video. I'm so excited to share this with you. So let's just talk yeast for a second because it's probably one of the most important things when it comes to making bread at home. Active dry yeast and instant yeast are two of the most common, and the two yeasts can be used interchangeably in recipes, but active dry yeast needs to be dissolved. It only takes an extra minute or two, so that's what we're going to be using today. First, we need to make the yeast mixture. We're going to need 1 cup of warm water. Think baby bath water. The temperature of the water is really important. Too cold or too hot will kill the yeast. It needs to be the temperature you'd use for a newborn bath. Next, you need to add 3 tablespoons of yeast and 1 tablespoon of sugar. I measure this right into the 2-cup glass measuring cup. And then this is where the magic happens. When the mixture foams up to the top of the 2-cup mark, it's ready. Next, in a large mixing bowl, I mix 9 cups of all-purpose flour, half a cup of sugar, 1 tablespoon of salt, the yeast mixture, 3 cups of warm water, and half a cup of oil. The cup of oil is definitely optional because I have forgotten it before. The only difference I noticed was the bread was a little bit more dense instead of being as light and fluffy. So if you like denser bread, you can definitely make it without the oil and it will still turn out. Now we're just going to mix everything together and knead the dough until it is soft. It'll be tacky but not sticky to your fingers. And add a little bit more flour if it's too sticky. During this process of kneading, I usually end up adding another cup or 2 of flour. A little tip when making anything with dough, always make sure you flour your surface. It will prevent it from sticking and making just one giant mess. Now, the kneading takes about 5 minutes, but honestly, this is the hardest part out of the whole process. And it's going to taste that much better after all your hard work. Honestly, nothing is better than warm buns and bread coming out of the oven. My mouth is literally watering thinking about it right now. Now, taking the same mixing bowl because no one wants extra dishes, and we're going to grease it. Place the dough in it and cover it with a towel and let it rise for 1 hour. Now, it needs to be kept in a warmer location, so on a stovetop is a good spot, or if it is a little bit chillier, just turn your oven on, keep warm it up for just a moment, and then turn it off and place it in there to rise. While the dough is rising, this is when I take the time to clean up my workstation and grease the pans that I'm going to need. Now, you can use whatever you'd like to grease the bottom of your baking tray. I'm using vegetable oil here and I am just distributing it here with this little brush. I just wanted to give you guys a little peek of the dough rising. When I said you needed a large mixing bowl, I wasn't joking. Now, if you don't have a large mixing bowl, you can definitely half this recipe, or if you'd like to make the full recipe and you don't have a large mixing bowl, just divide it into 2 smaller bowls while it's rising. Now the hour is done and it has finished rising, and as you can see, it has doubled in size. This is how you know it is ready. Now, this is always a fun part to have the children join in, and they always have a blast doing it, and that is punching it down after it has risen. Once we have done that, we are going to give it a quick knead, just to help get out any of those extra air bubbles. This part is going to vary for everyone depending on what you're going to be making. You're going to need to cut these into proportions that are going to be used for your bread, buns, or cinnamon rolls. Now just keep in mind that anything that you're making is going to double in size. I'm just going to show you quickly here on how I divided to make 2 loaves of bread, a batch of buns, and cinnamon rolls. And just so you guys know, this recipe is not just limited to these things. You can make pizza dough, pizza buns. There is endless options with this. If you'd like me to show you more things that we can make with this same recipe, just comment down below and I will make another follow-up video. Now for the cinnamon rolls, we are just going to lightly flour our surface and take our portion of dough and roll it out. Then we're going to spread some softened butter to the edges and sprinkle our cinnamon brown sugar mixture, which is just equal amounts of cinnamon and brown sugar. Then roll it up cut it and place it in your greased pan. Now we're going to let all of these rise for 1 hour. Now this is completely optional, but once they are ready to go into the oven, put softened butter on the top of each and a little sea salt or Himalayan salt. This adds a nice little touch to the buns. Now that everything is ready, you can place it in a preheated oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 to 30 minutes or until the tops are golden brown. And here they are, guys, our beautiful home-cooked buns and bread. Now another little tip I have for you guys is if you like your bread having a harder crust, don't bother doing this, but if you love having your soft crust bread, make sure you add just some softened butter on top of it and it makes the world of difference. Now I'm going to share another little tip with you guys because I struggled with this so hard when I first started making homemade bread, and that is, how do you get it out of the pan? Do not immediately take it out. Set it aside on a cooling rack for about 5 minutes. Just the heat alone will allow moisture to build up inside, and the steam will allow the bread to loosen up along the sides of the pan and allow it to drop out. Now, before you flip it upside down, make sure you give it a little tap on the counter and give it a little shake. Look at how awesome these turned out. Now just think, by adding a little bit more dough to your proportions and putting these on a simple cookie tray to rise will allow you to make some awesome hamburger buns as well. And for the finale, guys, our cinnamon buns. Yes! How good do these look? Now, we can leave them like this, which leaves them a little bit healthier, but that doesn't make them those awesome, sticky, gooey buns that we love. To make the typical cinnamon roll icing, you would use cream cheese, powdered sugar, and milk, but I am making this with no dairy, so we are going to have to improvise with the cream cheese and the milk. So here's how I make it. I mix 1 cup of powdered sugar, 2 tablespoons of almond milk, and half a teaspoon of vanilla or orange extract. If you haven't tried it with orange, I would recommend you give it a try. Now, these are probably smaller than what some people would prefer. Now, all you have to do, as I mentioned before, is simply just make your dough proportions larger so that your buns turn out bigger. And that's it, guys. That's all that is to it. Please feel free to share this video and save this recipe. It's so easy, it's just a little time consuming. And when you've tried this recipe, make sure to take some pictures and tag me on Instagram. I would love to see how your stuff turned out. If you are new here and you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do so. I would love to have you guys join me on this little corner of the internet.